So firstly, I welcome all of you and thank you so much for taking out time. That also on a Sunday afternoon where you could have actually, decided to spend time with your family, friends, or just chilling and relaxing, but you decided to be a part of this session. So thank you so much. Okay. So before I start with introduction of the speaker, I want to take not less than, I will take less than half a minute to talk about this initiative, Women Wealth Circle, that actually got its life when I was thinking, how can I truly empower women? See, being in the financial industry for 23 years, I've seen women shying away from earning a lot of money and shying away from money management. And believe me, trust me, the true empowerment of women comes in when we are financially literate, when we are financially secured, and when we are financially empowered. And this, I will say, with my experience and for all the other women whom I have coached on money mindset and management. Uh, so that's how the series got its life. I would say it just got its birth. And there are two key objectives of this series. The first one is that we will bring in topics once in a month. These are those topics that will help you take better decisions, better informed decisions with money. And the second objective is we will try to simplify the concept. See, what I've understood now, the financial world is full of jargons. And it is so overwhelming. We feel, no, too much for me. I don't want to do it. So that's the reason why the series got created, that whoever is going to come and explain the concept will explain it in such a manner that even a small child is listening to it, the small child can further explain it to you. Yeah. So that's the second important objective of the series. So this is why the series got started, Women Wealth Circle, because I want my women to be wealthy, not just rich. That's the tagline that I have. And I keep telling all the women that, when you're wealthy, because wealth, I see it as an amplifier that can do a lot more good to the world. I can see someone joining in. Fine, no worries. So I think most of the people here in the screen, they know about me. I'm not sure about Vinod and Vivek and this other person who's joining in. So can I give my introduction? If you don't know me, then I'll give my introduction. Otherwise, I'll just skip my introduction. Okay, fine. Let me give my introduction, which will not take a lot of time. So hi, I'm Meena Shriram. I am a certified life and money coach. After spending 23 years with the corporate industry, I decided to choose my passion, which is helping people. And I created this company of mine, Live Your Dream Life, which is aiming at helping people be their best version. And currently, I'm helping a lot more women on the money mindset and money management part of it. I tell you, this job is extremely satisfying. I thoroughly love it. I would not call it a job. It's my passion. It's my hobby. Like I don't actually believe and see that I'm working. So that's about me. And now I come to our speaker today, Sunita Panigrahi. So me and Sunita, we are very close. We are best of the friends, and our friendship goes back to more than 8 years. And with the financial industry, Sunita has been there for the last 8 years. And she's an senior investment research analyst with Kotak Mahindra Asset Management Company. Actually, when it comes to her wisdom on finance, I told Sunita the other day that your wisdom is equal to someone with 25 years of experience. And I'm not biased because she's my friend. I truly believe it because goes very deep into all the concepts. She just doesn't, go at a very surface level when it comes to information and knowledge. So other than Kotak Mahindra Bank, she has worked with the top companies like Axis Bank, IFL Wealth, MFA, and she's a certified financial planner. And she's a CFA candidate, which is the highest degree in the wealth management space. And Sunita, I'm so glad to have you. It's such a pleasure and happiness for me to have you today on this platform.
Well, thank you so much, Meena, for the introduction and a very warm welcome to all of you. It's such a pleasure to be a part of this webinar today, and it's all the more special for me because of the person who's connecting all of us today. Meena Shriram, as she mentioned, Meena, she's been my coach and a mentor since the time I started my career in the investment industry. And I am super excited to be talking to you all about budget finance and would be happy to take any questions if there are any.
Yeah.
So without much ado, Meena, over to you.
Yeah, we'll start. Okay, so as and when you are getting question, I would request you to type it in the chat box so that the flow of the presentation doesn't get, the flow just gets continued. So if any questions are coming to you, just keep writing in the chat box and we will answer all the questions at the end. Okay. And so are you guys super excited? If you're super excited, write SE. If you're excited, write E. If you're looking forward to it, you can write L. Like, I want some energy, enthusiasm.
Oh, super.
So excited. Awesome, Lakshmi. Awesome, Saundarya. Superb.
Amazing.
Pratika, thank you. Amazing. So we will just start with the question answers. Okay. So Sunita is going to simplify it. That's the first thing that we discussed, that bolenge, ekdam simple bolenge. Because I think that's the way how we will understand it way better.
Sure.
The first question, Sunita, is
just Meena, just 1 second. Just give me half a minute. Just 1 second.
Yeah, sure.
Yeah. Now I'm all set.
Okay, super. Yeah. Okay. So the first question is, okay, so this question now, I've heard it several times, and that's why this becomes the first question, that what is the purpose of union budget and why is it so important? Because it's like people are waiting, budget hai, pura din people are like hooked onto the TV. What is the purpose of a union budget and why is it so important?
Well, that's a great question to start with, Meena. So what usually happens is, a union budget usually throws a lot of jargon to all of us. And that's why a lot of people are really scared. And some people just say, it's okay, we'll just take care of what is important for us. But I feel before taking any questions or moving forward, we'll actually take 2 steps back and understand what this budget is all about, the overall broad mechanism of how a budget is made. Just to give you a fact that the budget preparation starts 6 months earlier. So the budget which was presented in the month of Feb, like 3 days back, the preparation starts 6 months back, which is like August last year. So that's how exhaustive a budget is. And eventually we'll understand what is important for us and what points to take care and take prudent decisions out of it. So the 2 important objectives of a good budget or a budget is first to have financial statements, to present the financial situation of the economy. And the second objective of the budget is to lay down a roadmap as to what the government is going to do for the next 1 year. Now, one term which is majorly used in budget is fiscal. Now, what do you mean by fiscal? Is a year. A year in a budgetary term is called fiscal. So any year which the government is going to work on is called a fiscal year. Now, having said that, let me explain you all with the help of an example of how this whole budget works. See, we all women, we have a budget in hand at the start of the month, right? We have certain incomes, certain expenses, and at the end of the month, we have, either a surplus or a deficit. And that's how we manage our homes, right? So for a budget, it's the same. What the government does is, and now I'll be using the income expense in a budgetary term. So our income, what we have in hand, which is our salary or our business income, is called revenue. So the government, whatever the government earns, it's called revenue of the government. Revenue, whatever we spend. Now the spending of the government could either be in terms of, a recurring revenue or a non-recurring revenue. Now, what do you mean by a recurring revenue? A recurring revenue is something which keeps happening again and again. For example, for us, it could be our school education fees, our kids' education fees, rent, maybe paying our electricity bills, Wi-Fi bills. These are all recurring expenses for us, right? In a similar fashion, for government, there are certain recurring expenses which happen, which say, suppose pension payments to employees, fixed interest payments, which the government, they have released some bonds, they have to pay some interest payments. The other different expenses which the government occurs, right? And then the other form of expenses are non-recurring, which are called capital expenses. Now, what do you mean by capital expenses? capital expenses are basically fixed expenses. For us in our lives, it could be buying that one new iPad, going on a vacation, sending our kids to a school trip, or they're renovating our house. So these are all one-time expenses. So our expenses are combined of revenue, regular expenses and recurring expenses and non-recurring expenses. For government, the recurring expenses I explained are the pensions and all of that. For government, the capital expenditure are nothing but taking a railway project, building that highway, or for example, the best example could be during COVID. COVID was like a one-time big expense for government. So basically, you take the revenue, you subtract the revenue expense, recurring expense, non-recurring expense. At the end, whatever is left with us. So in our households also, like during the end of the month, either we are left with some money or we are running short of money. For
Yeah.
the government as well, surplus is difficult to handle, right? Handling our own homes and handling an economy are two separate things. So in India, as a country, we always run fiscal deficit. Now, fiscal, as I explained, is a year. Deficit is our expenses are more than our income. The revenue that government earns for always falls short of the income, and this is with most of the country. There's nothing new with India, but for government to run, there's always a deficit, which is called fiscal deficit. Now, the question could be then how do you build, like how does the government build this fiscal deficit, as in how do they borrow, what do they do? So to build this deficit, like for us, if we are on deficit, we'll see if we have additional cash in hand, or some savings we take from our spouses. So this could be our way of bridging that gap of income and expenses. For government, it is by issuing so when government falls short of money, what they do is they they issue bonds. So whatever new bonds that governments are giving, that is the way of building those gaps. They'll issue new bonds, they'll increase the amount of saving certificate. There are different ways. They would borrow from the International Monetary Fund. So this is how the overall spectrum of a budget is. So this creates a whole spectrum of how income, expenses, and fiscal deficit happens. Any questions in case of a very
So
fast?
I'll just summarize. No, not fast. I know there are a lot of in terms of terminologies used, but you have tried to still simplify it. So I'll just simplify it and put it this manner. Like government is like a household, like at a bigger level. So government is nothing. If you have to relate to a very simple example, just like a household is run, government is also running a household where there are income and where there are expenses. So income is from the direct tax, indirect taxes, and
GST
all of other things, GST and everything that's coming in. And there's a lot of expenses that's happening, which is recovering, where you gave a very beautiful example of, the recurring ones in our household is like the rent and all, which we have to pay on a monthly basis. And for a government, it can be
pension,
pension, all these. So for our economy, we are always in a deficit format. Yeah. So basically, every year the government presents to the entire nation. जैसे हम घर पे we just share, husband and wife, we discuss ना कि हमने इतना कमाया, इतना expend किया, अरे कुछ तो बचा नहीं. So basically, the government is telling the entire nation that this is where we stand in terms of the overall income, overall expenses, and overall what is being left behind. Now, the objective, like for every household, what I understand, Sunita, is that we want to be more on the surplus part of it. We don't want to be on a negative part of it, which is also the government is trying to work. So why I think people look forward to this budget, they want to know, are there certain reforms that's going to hit their income or their taxes or their expenses to a greater extent? As a result, see, government is have a bigger outlook. But end of the day, see, when I see a budget, oh, मेरे को तो ज़्यादा tax नहीं pay करना पड़ेगा ना. Oh, GST बढ़ नहीं रहा है ना. Oh, indirect tax बढ़ नहीं रहा है ना. So from my outlook, I'm more curious to know how is this going to impact me? How is it really going to change my situation at my home? Like the business people are really concerned about in terms of, will it further help in growing the this thing? Okay, what's Hardi is writing? Okay. Yeah, perfect, Hardi. So even the business people, they think like, will it really help them in growth of their company? Because, they're already into a lot of challenges as a business owner. Then the budget has to be a pro for most of the entrepreneurs. Yeah. So, yeah, I think you have explained it beautifully in a very simple language. We can park our questions on this, anything that is there at the end, and we will take it because we'll go with the flow. Otherwise, the flow will get. So after every thought, Sunita, I'm going to summarize it.
Yeah, sure.
I'm sure that will help all of us to be there. And if I need more clarity, I will ask you. Yeah.
Definitely.
Okay. Super. Yeah, we'll go ahead. So yeah, the second question I forgot. I have to ask you a question. Okay. 1 second. Yeah. Okay. How is the budget different from the last year? Because every time we hear about the budget, अरे ये budget तो बेकार, अरे ये तो budget is more towards a particular industry.
Sure.
If I compare the last budget vis-a-vis this budget, how is this budget different? And how is it budget like? What is the name that you would give to this budget?
So if I have to compare this year's, FY24's budget with the last two budget, it's fairly different, Meena. From a simple perspective that the last 2 years has been really difficult for us, everyone at a personal level due to COVID. Similarly for the government, because they had to manage all of us, right? So the budget, if you have to compare last 2 years budget, was more on, COVID relief measures, taking immediate actions on health and all of that. This year's budget focuses more on spending, capital. In budget terms, it's called capital expenditure. Now, this is again a jargon which I think you will hear it every year till the time you are hearing the budget. Every year you'll have the government is spending this much on capital expenditure in a short form.
But capital expenditure, you can just explain that.
Yeah. So capital expenditure in a short form, it's called capex. Government is doing 10 trillion of capex this fiscal year. So what a capital expenditure. So before understanding which sectors the government will invest in or how good it is or bad it is, let's understand what this capex does to us at an individual level.
Perfect.
So when government says that, so I'll come back to the question of what is different in the last and this budget. Last year's budget, as I explained earlier, it was more COVID-centric with a lot of medical and immediate issue-solving, questions.
Yeah.
This year, it's more of, spending for the economy and building a roadmap as to how this government is going to take the next step in terms of creating employment, a lot of other issues. So talking about expenditure, then now the government is going to make a lot of expenditure this year. Now, how it affects, it's like a cycle, right? How do we have a food chain? It's like a chain. When the government is spending more, let me take an example. If the government is spending a lot of money on railways, the immediate effect of the government spending on this sector is that it creates employment. When it creates employment, there is a lot of consumption. People are earning, they would want to spend. And for any economy to grow, consumption is the must. Like you have to consume for the economy to grow.
Perfect.
Once you consume, businesses earn profit, they become more profitable. So for example, if there's a consumption boost, okay, people have started to earn, government has spent a lot of money on infra and railways. People have gotten employment because of that. They've started to spend going to the mall, shopping, eating. This creates businesses for companies, for example, ITC, HUL, companies like these are FMCG companies. It creates revenue for them and other ancillary companies as well. When this revenue is created, it becomes profitable. And that profitable is eventually, because if a company is making profit, it will eventually reflect in your paychecks. So that's how, some people think the government capex kar raha hai, how is it benefiting me? Mera kya hoga? It's like a whole chain of how a spending at a macro level will help you at a micro level. So this is how current budget is very different from the last year's budget. They have been spending in last few, all the budgets, but this time the magnitude of the government spending on a lot of sectors is like really huge. To give you in number terms, the government this year is spending about 10 trillion in the railway sector.
Wow.
This jump is about 9x more, 9 times more than what it had invested in the year 2014. So this kind of impact this budget sort of has on everyone.
Okay, just out of curiosity, why in railways like 10 trillion? Is there a reason? Like,
So railway as a sector, Meena, this government is trying to, create a world-class, infra. Infra has always been a major focus for government. You've
yeah.
seen how well they have sort of developed, different infra projects, spent a lot of money on infra. Railway is again a connecting part to building that infra. There are this new railways. I think there was a recent railway launched yesterday also. Railway, what happens, it's basically a government project, right? A lot of employment generation happens through railway, and that is why this as an example I gave, that it is very important. Yeah, exactly, someone is saying bullet train. Yeah, I was talking about the same. So this sort of creates engineering as an employment. It gives to semi-rural people who are working in the semi-rural sectors, right? So railway sort of mixes or balances both. That's why.
Thanks, Deepa, thanks, Deepa and Soundarya, for the thought. Yeah. So the way I'll just summarize what you said. So basically, this budget is different from the previous budget. Previous budget was more towards, COVID support in terms of helping. I would say they help the people so that the economy is being helped. And this is more of a capital expenditure budget. When I say capital expenditure, the government is investing all in the betterment of the economy, which is like railway, other infrastructure projects. So the money will go there. So the railways itself is taking 10 trillion. And as you said, when I asked you the question why, you said that if it is railways, then basic jobs and the connectivity and the bullet train, what Saundarya said and what Deepa said, the infrastructure growth is very important. So the budget is more towards making the economy more robust, and I think with that, even the deficit that the economy has over a period of time, that will get reduced, because that's what every household also wants. Now, we don't want to be running on a deficit. We want to be on a surplus. And I think that's the economy also wants to have the same thing. Yeah, keeping that in mind. So this is the capital expenditure budget, which is focusing on the growth of the economy. Yeah, yeah, so to put it in a very simple fashion, I've just summarized what you said. Yeah. So, guys, are you finding it easy to understand? If it is easy, put E, because then it will just help both of us to know. Because one of the objective of this series is to simplify things. If you want us to further simplify, we will definitely try our best to do it. So please put in your comments in the chat box. Are you finding it easy? If you're not finding it easy, just put NE. If you're finding it easy, put E in the chat box. Guys, I'm waiting for it. Oh, thanks, Deepa. Thanks, Saundarya. Lakshmi, thank you. Okay, fine. So most of the people are finding it easy. Good. So we can go ahead. Okay, so the third question that's coming to you is okay, income tax slab. So see, I think this is a very important topic. I remember in the last so many years of my career with the wealth management industry, the first thing we are on the lookout is tax slab ka kya hua hai? We always like focus, because end of the day it will hit our pocket. So can you just put some light on the tax slab? Has it changed? Is it better than the previous one? Can you go a bit deeper and share us with examples, so that people can understand it? Because see, this one will affect all of us. So I would request each one of you to understand it very well, because end of the day, you will know based on this tax slab, this is where you land. Yeah. So Sunita, you can go and explain to us on that.
I think, Meena, this is the most asked question to me in the last week. So when you know what, I'll just share my personal example with you. So when the budget comes, all my friends, they'll not ask about fiscal deficit for obvious reason. They would say, what is tax may change hua hai kya? Do I have to call my CA? So this is such an important part of though this is, even if I don't know if you all have heard the finance minister's speech, like the live speech. I was hearing that speech when I was in office. So she herself mentioned that, okay, now comes the most important part for all of you all. She herself made a joke on that this is the most important part that people are waiting for. And so just a quick disclaimer for my side, I am not a tax expert, and one has to definitely consult the advisors before filing their final tax. But what I will try to do is help you build a perspective and an understanding as to which tax regime. I'm sure you would have heard about the old, new, a lot of buzz around, which one is better. but I'll try my best to explain you all and help you all to choose which regime or which tax regime which is proposed by government helps the most to you. And before that, I mean, before starting that, I'd like to also explain how this whole tax structure works, because I know from my personal experience, a lot of my friends who are like, doing really well when it comes to taxes, it's like, I have to call my CA. I have absolutely no knowledge. This is the TDS which gets deducted, and I have to speak to my CA. So yeah. So I will share. So this, because we are going to use a lot of numbers, I'll go a little slow, and in case you have doubts, I think we can clear this session of this part of this session right away, because tax
we can
is
do that.
something which we could do. It's one-to-one discussed is always better.
Better.
So I'll run a little slow, and I'll start from the very initial stage of your salary structure and how and which ones suits the best to you.
Perfect. Yeah. Makes sense.
Yeah. So I'll just share my screen, Meena. Just let me know if you can see my screen.
Yeah, I'll let you know. Sure.
Is it visible?
Yeah, it's visible, Sunita. Yeah. I can see.
So these are like quick slides of what we previously discussed about how a rupee earned is spent, and how the government spends it. I can come to this slide again if anyone wants to see. This is just to cover that flow. We also spoke about fiscal deficit and GD and revenue and expenditure. So if you see on the left hand side, I'll just take half a minute to speak about this. Our fiscal deficit, the government's projection is reducing, which means they're trying to earn more and spend good amount, but they're trying to increase their revenue a lot. Okay, that is how the fiscal deficit picture is happening, as we discussed. Now I'll come to the favorite part of everyone, which is taxation of and how this budget proceeds or talks about or wants people to bring about taxation. Yeah, so this is the basic structure of any salaried individual. So I have tried to simplify taxation. Usually as a subject is extremely complicated, but for everyone, for every woman or for every individual for that matter, it's extremely important to know the basic components of how you derive at your net taxable salary. So you have your salary. Suppose I'll take an example. You have a salary of 10 lakh rupees a year. You claim basic exemptions from this salary, which is your HRA, your Mediclaim, other deductions, your rent receipts. You issue your rent receipts every year, to your HR. You claim certain deductions from these, right? Which are your, 80C. Yeah.
Yeah. So this is for a person who's employed in an organization.
Yeah. This is for salaried individuals.
Yeah. This is for people who are employed, because here we have a crowd that is mixed. So there are entrepreneurs and there are people who are employed. So this is specifically for people who are employed in an organization. Yeah.
This is for salary.
Yeah.
This is for.
Yeah.
So this is for salaried people, and the basic structure of salaried exemption deductions remains the same for a lot of people, and hence that is why I'm created this whole a skeleton of things which we'll cover here. So basic first is your salary. From your salary, you claim certain exemptions, you claim certain deductions, and the government himself, they deduct 50,000 rupees, and this becomes your net salary, net taxable salary. So this is the broad structure, that salary minus exemptions minus deductions. Now, what is the difference between exemption and deduction? Exemptions is something that you tell government that, okay, you are spending on rent, you get HRA claim. You you've rented your flat, so you get HRA. The other deductions which depends on company to company basis. Deductions, on the other hand, are your 80C. You invest in ELSS to save tax. You remember, I mean, everyone during the Jan, Feb, March, they call their CAs and, how much do I have to invest? CAs would say, put 1,50,000 in, ELSS, or invest in PPF, take a Mediclaim insurance for that matter. So these are deductions, which are basically investments that you make to save on tax. Standard deduction is standard. It is about 50,000, which gets deducted from your salary, and that becomes your net taxable salary. Let me give you an example. Suppose you have a salary of 10 lakh per annum. Your basic exemptions, which you could claim, was 1 lakh rupees. So your salary now is 9 lakh. Now you are making investments to save the tax, which is 150 lakhs in PPF. maybe 50,000 in NPS. Now your salary becomes 7.5 lakhs. Government will give you a 50,000 deduction, that it will say, okay, you take 50,000 off from your salary, as in deduction, not amount wise, but for calculation of salary. 50,000 gets deducted. So now your net taxable salary becomes 7 lakh rupees. 10 lakh minus 1 lakh minus 1 lakh 50 your investment and 50,000. Now this 7 lakhs is called net taxable salary. So whatever tax gets calculated is on this net taxable and not your gross salary. It is your net after your deductions and exemptions. Now this net taxable salary now can be broken down into a new tax regime and an old tax regime. Now, 2 years back, so this two regime confusion came into effect post the last 2 years. Previous to that, we have only one tax rule, which is different buckets, which I'll show you in the next slide, and a tax number. So maybe 0 to 2.5 lakh, zero tax, 2.5 to 5 lakh, 5%. I'm talking about those tax slabs. Now, having understood, any doubts still here? I mean, this basic structure, because this will form a part of what I'm going to explain next.
Yeah. So can I add a point here? So
Yeah.
the way I understand is that for a entrepreneur, the exemptions, instead of an HRA, which is there for an employee, for an entrepreneur, the exemptions can be a lot more other exemptions.
Yeah,
like
it's like a whole host of
things which the CA tells the entrepreneur that you can claim all these things under exemptions. Yeah.
right.
Otherwise, the structure, if I see for an entrepreneur and for a employee, a person who's employed, is more or less the same, because then the salary will come, then the exemptions will come. Exemptions for an entrepreneur is going to be
the deductions would come. Yeah.
Then the deductions is common for both an entrepreneur and for an employee. The standard deduction again is common for an employee and for an entrepreneur. Yeah, correct.
Entrepreneur, the standard deductions could be very different, Meena. This 50,000 is only for salaried employees.
Okay, so employee, okay, entrepreneur will be different. It
is based on some percentage, so that basically, if you have a turnover of 5 crore rupees, for example, it could be within this range. So as its salary, for entrepreneurs, it's like their turnover. How much turnover do you have in a year? Yeah,
understood.
It's based on the turnover.
Superb. So basically, we all know that when we are filing our tax, this is what is the flow that we need to keep in our mind. Yeah, correct, Sunita. So this is the flow that we should keep in our mind. So we can ask better questions from a CA.
Right. Then what all exemptions can you claim? So you are claiming HRA or Mediclaim. Are there any other exemptions that you could claim? These are some questions you could ask. Deduction, suppose you were invested in an ELSS, you're investing in PPF. Very few people know that you can claim additional 50,000 in NPS. Now, NPS, for everyone's understanding, is National Pension Scheme. It is a scheme by government for people to encourage for their savings in the retirement, during the retirement period. You get an additional 50,000 rupees benefit apart from the 1,50,000 in ATC when you do a pension investment. So, you could just chalk down all your deductions that you could claim. And eventually you could, in your mind, when you understand this structure, you have a figure in mind. Okay, suppose 20 lakhs is my salary. I am claiming exemptions of 2 lakhs. I can invest up to, 3 lakhs, 15 lakhs minus 50,000. So 14 lakh is my taxable salary. And let me see now how much tax I have to pay. So this is the whole idea of this slide, is to create a framework in your mind as to what is your taxable salary.
Understood. Is it clear? Is it clear for most of us? Okay, I can see Saundarya. I can see Pratiksha nodding. Okay, great. So we move ahead, because getting this thing clear is the base for our coming slide. Now, Sunita, correct?
Yes, that's to all the coming slides. And now again, there's a googly here. So this is what used to, So I explained this was happening throughout. This was called the old regime now. Okay. Last 2 years, the government kept this. So this structure basically of claiming exemptions, deductions, everything was in the old regime. Now, in the last 2 years, government, during the COVID period, government with its intention to simplify budget for people. See, I have put it in a very simple format of exemptions, deductions, but all of us know how hectic it gets for us when the tax seasons come, right? We are constantly calling our CA, they are asking for paper. So this looks prima facie very simple, but there are a lot of exemptions and deductions, and hence to avoid these problems, the government has put up a new tax regime. We'll talk about that in the next slide. Quickly, a very, very, very important, from next year onwards, which is from 1st April 2023, if an individual is a salaried individual, he will come under the new tax regime. The default regime is the new tax regime. Now the question is, what is this new tax regime? So in the new tax regime, you will not be given any exemptions. You can't claim any deductions. All you will be given is a standard deduction of 50,000 rupees.
Oh,
yeah. So that is why I explained you all in detail, and this is like a very traditional school, tax structure of salary exemption deductions. In your new tax regime, you cannot claim any exemptions, no HRA, no Mediclaim, nothing, no deductions, no PPF would help you, or no ELSS would help you. It is straight your salary, standard deductions, and you will have your net taxable salary.
the
Now,
deduction will be 50,000 only. That has
yes,
not.
yeah. Again, so till last year, there was absolutely no deduction. This year's budget, the government has introduced this 50,000 for the new tax regime.
Okay.
If someone took a new tax regime last year,
They will
had absolutely no provisions to, show these deductions. This year, government being a little kind to all of us, they've given us, 50,000 in the new tax regime.
Tax regime. Okay.
Yeah.
Understood.
So now when you reach, so in your mind, when you reach at the net taxable salary, this is what the picture looks like, which is your old tax regime where there is no change. This has been there for a very long time. The new tax regime, which has come 2 years back, and few changes have been made this year. So let's just spend some time on this slide. So in the old tax regime, now this is the tax regime where you will have all the deductions available for you, all the saving, basically tax saving options available to you, all the HRA, LTA available to you. Now there are a few concepts I like to explain before I move ahead. There's something called as rebate and rebate. Now, rebate means the government is telling you that you need not pay any tax if your income is above this. In the old tax regime, the rebate that you get is for 5 lakhs. So in simple language, if someone is earning a salary of 5 lakh and less in the old tax regime. So now first I'll talk about only old tax regime. So if someone is earning a salary of less than net taxable salary, again, everything I talk about is net taxable salary. Net taxable salary, as I explained, is salary minus deduction, minus exemption, minus standard. If your net taxable salary is less than 5 lakh rupees, the government doesn't ask you to pay any tax. This is the rebate under the old system. Okay, so how is the tax calculated basically? So if you 0 to 2.5, you are not paying any tax. If your salary is to 5 lakhs, you will have to pay 5%. 5% of the difference. The difference between this is 2.5 lakhs. So 12,500 is the tax which comes in this bracket. So this one CMI do it for you. But since this is an empowering session, we should also know how our tax is getting calculated. So the tax at every slab is getting calculated. Let me give an example. Suppose your salary is 8 lakhs rupees and we are talking about the old tax regime. So if you are in a salary structure of 8 lakh rupees, I will try to explain it one second. Yeah. So suppose your salary is around 8 lakh rupees. You are actually falling in this bracket, right? Now this calculation works the same for both new and old. The way of calculating is the same, but there are changes in the slab and a few other things which I'll be discussing. Okay, coming back. If you earn a salary of net taxable salary of 8 lakh rupees, you are coming in the 20% tax bracket, right? So are you going to pay 8 lakh into 20% is your taxable tax that you have to pay? No. That is why the slab comes into picture. So in the first slab, which is your 2.5 to 5 lakh, you are paying 5%. If you calculate 2,50,000, 5% is 12,500. In the next slab, if your salary is 8 lakh, which is 8, so your slab for this would be 8 lakh minus 5 lakh, which is 3 lakh. 3 lakh is the net range of this. 8% of 3 lakhs is what you would be paying. So 12,500 here, suppose 10,000 here, 25,000 is the tax that you will pay if you are in this range. This is just an example, illustrative example to explain. So basically, this is how,
Is it clear, like how it is calculated? Like you understood how the minusing happened?
Can you repeat it actually?
Yeah. So I think I should explain you
With
all
an
this.
Excel. I think just take an Excel.
Yeah, I think that would be better.
Yeah, that would be easy. Because see, once you understand this now, when the CA is filing the tax for you, you will exactly know. And no one teaches you to this level of
Yeah, this
simplicity.
is something even I learned after 5 years of working. I used to always depend on my CA. Okay,
Yeah.
50,000 is the tax, let's pay it.
Yeah,
So
this my dad explained it to me. And he said, you should know. I said, no, but this easy, no, you should know it. And that's when I understood. I said, oh my God, this is the way how the calculation happens.
Just one, okay.
Yeah, just take an Excel and you can just like explain it.
Like,
it's very simple.
It's
and
very simple.
Can
I
I
think
ask
an Excel
something?
will.
Do you mean to say for the first 5 lakhs, the tax is not calculated?
No, I will explain that. So suppose you are your first slab is 2 lakh. I'll take some time here, and I think if you understand this, then this is the broad structure of a taxation, right? New tax, old tax, it all works the same way. Few nuances here and there. So suppose this is your tax structure. Let me just put some bit numbers here. So here we are not paying any tax for the first slab. Here it's 10%. 20%. So this is as per the old tax regime, right? So suppose, so in the first, so suppose I'll take an example of someone who's earning an 8 lakh rupees salary. Okay, 8 lakh taxable salary. Again, there's a difference between taxable and gross salary. We are talking about it like after your deductions and everything. If your salary is 8 lakh rupees. For the first slab, the difference is, this is how the tax is calculated. When 2.5 lakh is the difference, I am going to pay 5% of 2.5 lakh. This is my first part. This is how it is calculated. Since I fall in this bracket, right? I am falling in this bracket. My tax would be 20%, but it would be 8 lakh is what my taxable salary is, minus the 5 lakh slab because I am in this slab. Okay, so 3 lakh. Now so the first part of this, I have paid the first part, right? Which is 2.5 to 5 lakh. 12,000 is calculated. This is the second part. I'd be calculating on this. So this is my tax which I'll have to pay.
Is this clear?
I'll take one more example. I think if that's not clear, suppose my okay, let's take an example. Suppose my someone's salary is 17 lakhs. I think that will help clear the doubts. If my salary is 17 lakhs,
just put another zero. It is like 1,70,000.
Yeah.
Minus karoge to
correct.
Yeah.
Suppose, so now let's take it. I think this is a broad example which will clear of how a basic, again, all of y'all, this is a very basic, I'm trying to simplify it. There are a lot of complications when you are calculating your tax, but this is the broad that everyone should know. And okay, so taking an example that suppose someone is earning a net taxable, so one could have earned a salary of 21 lakhs. Their net taxable salary comes to 17 lakhs. So how is this calculated?
You can put it in this another one, Sunita. Let this be there. Take it below. Okay. Take this cash. So people can see the difference of an 8 lakh. Okay. Don't delete it. Don't delete it. People will know the difference if it is 8 lakh, what it comes. And if it is a 17 lakh, to kitna aata hai paisa.
That. So I'll take this example because the tax slab remains the same. Let me just hide it for now. Let's take this 17. Okay. Suppose a net taxable salary of 17 lakhs. Now, so I will fall in this bracket, right? anything above 12 lakhs falls in the highest tax bracket, which is 30%. So in
Correct.
this tax bracket, I do not directly jump to calculating 30% of 17 lakhs. How it works, it works slab wise. So for the first slab, I will just take the difference. For 5% of this. For the second slab now, I will take the difference of this, right?
Correct.
1 second, I'm missing 1 zeros here. Okay. Correct. For the second slab, I just took the difference. Now here, when I am in this bracket, this is my actual tax slab. Here, I am not earning 20 lakhs. I am earning 17 lakhs. So let me put 17 lakhs here. Okay. Now the difference between 17 lakhs and 10 lakhs, this will be my
Overall tax that
overall tax. Yes. So basically, 1 second. So tax, basically, those slabs are already predefined.
Correct.
Yeah, now it's perfect. Okay, so first slab, if you are in this slab straight, so this is common. If you see 12.5, someone earning more than 5 lakh, 12.5 is correct. 12,500 is common. This is common. When you reach your tax slab, you take the difference and find out the tax.
Super. I have understood it very clearly. So the total tax that a person with 17 lakhs is going to pay, so just addition of all of them is what they are going to pay.
Correct. So this is how it works. Now, this was not from a budget perspective. This was just to explain you all how basically a broad tax, a tax would look like. Now, coming back to any questions here, I'd love to answer any questions if there are.
Yeah.
Then we'll come to the budget aspect of it.
Okay, so Pratiksha is saying if we fall in a particular tax slab, then we need to pay tax for the previous slab too. I think Pratiksha, this will get answered now. Where the deduction
way of calculation.
Yeah. So Vinod is asking where is the deduction part, so that I think you will cover it now in the new regime.
So deduction, so basically that is what so the 17 lakhs is your net taxable salary. Suppose you have a salary of, okay, let me explain it this way. Suppose I have a salary of 25 lakhs. Okay, let me explain this again simply. Suppose someone is earning a salary of 25 lakhs. Okay, per annum. Now, some person has claimed exemptions of about around 1,80,000.
Yeah.
He's made investments of about 2 lakhs, 2.5 lakhs, suppose. PPF, EPF, everything, 2.5 lakhs. Government gave them an exemption of 50,000. Now, your salary minus your deductions, minus your exemptions, minus your standard deduction gives you, so this is your net taxable salary. Once you reach this, then this calculation happens. So for us, so this 20 lakh is equivalent to this 17 lakhs, and that's how post this our salary tax gets calculated. So this is the post part I explained.
But now you said there are going to be no exemptions, right?
Yeah, this is a basic tax. There's going to be exemptions in the old regime. So let me come back to the budget now. So this is a basic structure of how tax is calculated. Now coming to the most important part of what was announced in this budget, I'll just go back to the slide. Okay. So now, when you're filing your taxes next year, there are two options with you. One is your old tax regime. One is your new tax regime. Old tax regime will give you all the benefits of exemptions, deductions, everything. And your new tax regime will not give you any benefit, but the slabs are different here if you see.
So there's a big difference between, so if someone is earning a 9 lakh, in the previous tax regime, he would have paid 20%.
Right.
Whereas in the new tax regime, he's only paying 10%.
Correct.
So even for this, I can see that 9 to 12 lakhs, he would have paid 30% in the old tax regime. Whereas in the new tax regime, that person is only paying 15%, which is like quite a lot of benefit.
And this so now what happens is, this is very, so this part is extremely subjective. So if you want to read more on this topic, you if you Google, there are like one question to 100 answers, and each answer in their way is correct. So in the next slide, I have actually spent some time, created one calculator, which will help you, guide you how it works. A very important thing
I
again.
I have a feeling that by changing the tax slabs, they have made the calculations much easier.
Yeah, so the idea, okay, now let me explain why the government has done this. They are not wanting, also the idea behind doing this whole old new government, as per my view, is trying to make it simpler for people. We all know how complicated this overall tax structure is, right? The
Yes,
new tax regime will give you that freedom. Some people who are not wanting to invest, but just to save tax, they would lock in their money for such a long time. PPF
Yes.
is a great investment, but
perfect,
the lock-in period is very high.
perfect.
For example, for my dad, he started his PPF at, I think at age 45, 50. Ideally, just to save some amount of tax. So the lock-in period is something which people are not really wanting. ELS is
Yes,
again a very good option, again has a lock-in. Any tax saving investment comes with a huge lock-in period. So the
correct.
government intention here was to, simplify, and this is not an overnight process, right? There are so many people. So this is a gradual move towards, simplifying the budget. Here, if you see the new tax regime, you don't have to make any investments. What you're earning, you can always create your wealth, wealth creation journey by discipline, in creating a disciplined investment. You don't need a tax push to make savings, right? That is
Because
the
of
whole
tax,
perspective.
actually, there was a forceful investment.
Exactly. And
Yeah,
something which does not meet your goals, right? If I have my kids' education goal after 3 years, a PPF would not really help me, right? Or if I am putting money in it, I'm doing an ELSS and an SIP. But that is a lock-in. If I have some requirement next year, I can't redeem that.
redeem
So
that.
in this whole journey of saving, forceful saving, taxing, government is trying to create a simplified version where there will be a salary, there will be different tax slabs. You can invest as per you want. You need not save for saving tax. That
And
is the whole idea. And in the budget speech, Finance Minister, I mean, Nirmala Sitharaman ma'am, she also mentioned that the idea is to move people towards the new tax regime. This will happen gradually, but right now this is it. And for people, so the first step which they have taken is someone who's not choosing between a old and a new regime, it would be a new regime. So if I am going to, for someone who's just started to work, for them the default option is the new regime. So they are not really concerned about exemption, deductions, and a lot of other stuff.
so if my son starts earning, he will go
Yes.
into the new regime, correct?
Unless he chooses to opt for old, but otherwise it's a new. Old regime is still
Option
open.
given. It's an
Yeah.
option given to
Yeah.
people.
I will also explain why they have kept the old regime open, and for whom. So in the next part of the session, we'll just discuss about which which regime works for whom.
Okay.
And that is the whole summary slide where we'll talk about which one fits for you. Now, a very important part, in the old tax regime, anyone who's earning a salary of less, taxable salary of less than 5 lakhs, not have to pay tax. For someone who's earning a salary of less than 7 lakhs, for them, new regime makes sense, because in the new regime, government has given a rebate, like you don't have to pay any taxes if your taxable salary is 7 lakhs. So,
Okay.
so this is like a clear judgment. Anyone who's earning less than 7 lakhs should go for the new tax regime.
Okay.
Yeah. Now I will again go back to a slide. I mean, I'll go back to an Excel where we'll discuss few scenarios, and which will help you understand of, since we've understood taxation, deductions, the structure, the slabs here, we'll just take 1, 2 examples to conclude this whole taxation part. Yeah. Now this might look a little too much of numbers, but let's just take one example here. So suppose I am just 1 second. Yeah. Suppose this is, I will choose this slab here. Let me just. There are some challenges in my Excel. So just focus on 1 second. So we are focusing on the row number 28. Okay.
You can just highlight it the way you did it. It will help.
Yeah. So we are focusing on, suppose, this row. Oh, pardon me for this. Okay.
Don't worry, Sunita. I think we'll focus at 7 to 9 lakhs. So
yeah, 7 to 9. Suppose I am now earning. Okay. Suppose I am earning a salary of 9,50,000. Okay. I am earning a salary of 9,50,000. Standard deduction, as we discussed, it's available for both. For if you take the new regime or you take the old regime, 50,000 standard deduction is available for both. Since we are now talking about the old regime, we can also claim some deductions, right? Suppose one is claiming a deduction of 1,50,000, because with a salary of 9,50,000, we could do a deduction of 1,50,000. These deductions are basically your investments in PPF and all. Now your net taxable salary, which is 9,50,000 minus 50,000 minus 1,50,000, becomes 7,50,000. The old tax, as per the old regime, you will have to pay a tax of 6,62,500. Correct? As per old regime. What we did is 9,50,000 is your salary. This is standard given by government. I am making an investment of 1,50,000. This is my net taxable salary. 60,000 is my tax regime. Let's come to the new tax regime. This is our new tax regime. I am not going to make any investments. I had assumed my salary of 9,50,000. Now government is giving me a standard deduction of 1 second. Government is giving me directly a standard deduction of 50,000. Correct?
Yeah.
950 is my salary in the new regime. I am not claiming any, I'm not doing any investment, straight away 50,000 deducted. My taxable salary is 9 lakh. So friends, if you see here, in the old regime, my taxable salary was 7,50,000, which was very less. I had to pay 62,000. Here, my taxable salary is 9 lakh. But because of the slabs, I am just paying a tax of 45,000 instead of the 62,000 in the old regime.
Understood.
So this is how it becomes super subjective, to calculate, and hence our CAs are still very important for us to, help us build this. But this is to just give you a perspective.
Yeah. So
now that
absolutely makes more sense with the example that you've given.
Yeah. Now there just one more point which I'd like to highlight. Now here, I have taken an example of just 1 second. Now here I had just taken an example of 150,000. One could also invest 2 lakhs, right? Then you have to check of, if you 2 lakh, now the old regime becomes better for us because I've invested more. So in short, if I have to explain, old tax regime or new tax regime, you have to take into consideration how much are you willing to invest to save those tax, what is your net taxable salary, and then compare as to which part is better. Yeah.
Understood.
One rule of thumb, if you are earning less than 7 lakh, just straight away go to the new tax regime. Anything other than that, you will have to create a comparison of, what deductions and, how much you could invest.
Yeah. Perfect. I think I understood it very clearly. I see Pratiksha saying, got it. I think everyone is it clear? It's simple and clear to understand? Okay, thanks,
Yes,
Ali,
it's very clear.
for the thumbs up. Thank you. Yeah, thanks, Saundarya, for the thumbs up. Okay, because getting this right is very important for us. Actually, this is empowerment, I would say. When you know it, when you sit with your CA and discuss it, it becomes so simple. Otherwise, you will feel so much of hijab to ask the CA, explain karo mere ko. Then he will not be able to take a decision. He will say, aisa, aisa, and then you'll say, aap hi batao jo sahi hai. I think the decision should be on us. whether we want to go for the old or new based on whatever we are saving and what are the benefits that we are getting from it. Perfect. Super. Yeah, Sunita, thank you. You've just simplified it like anything.
I hope so. If not, I mean, if one could, if someone could just go to the CA and ask those questions, I think our motive is served.
I know, and see, in most of the webinars that I have seen, ये सब ऊपर से बातें होती हैं. But end of the day, we want to go deeper, and someone, an expert like you, can make us understand. Okay, this is the way how we need to understand. I think everyone is empowered to know how to, at least what kind of conversation we need to have with a CA on this. Perfect. Yeah.
So people who are actually done all the not necessary investments, they can actually come out of it, I think now.
Yeah.
Yeah, one could, actually check of how much taxes they have to pay. And yeah, I mean, that is the whole idea of getting into, because I think people, which Meena, I mean, she's the best person to explain this. People usually mix their, insurance planning, tax planning, investment. They kind of mix up everything. And Meena has been a financial coach for so many years. She met so many clients where, everything gets mixed. One has to keep these three difference completely separate. You have your insurance planning, you do different things. Your investment planning should be separate. Tax planning again should be, one should not save invest to save tax. That should not be the idea.
Yeah. I just want to give one example of one of the coaches for whom I did this money session. It was so sad to see that she invested for 8 years in tax saving instruments just before March to save the tax, and everything was in the wrong insurance policy. So I was just telling her she had to take a loan for some of her personal expenses. And I was telling her that in spite of investing for 8 years, it didn't serve her because all of them were in lock-in and all of them were in wrong instruments. So most of the people save taxes at the just before March and always put into the wrong kind of investment avenues. So I think it's a great way of giving the choice to people as to what they want to do and how they want to go about it. So there's no pressure of doing things. Perfect. Yeah. So this brings us to the last question, or there's more on the tax that you want to share, Sunita?
No, just again, if I maybe just a teacher in me is telling me to just summarize everything for everyone, because it's like too much to take at once. So basically, again, I'll just summarize this tax part because this is the most important and the most tough part maybe of this. So basically, tax regime, you have an option to go for new tax regime or old tax regime. The default option is the new tax regime. When you are opting for an old tax regime, there are options to claim, so an old tax regime comes very handy for someone who has a loan, right? If you are having a home loan, you can claim your principal 2 lakh, principal up to 2 lakh, interest up to 50,000. So those sort of calculations are important. I would not say new regime is the best, because someone who has who has a home loan can do so much, show so much exemptions. I think still old regime works for few of them. Okay, again, old regime gives you all those exemption, deductions, investment opportunities, everything. New tax regime is simple, straightforward. Your salary, your standard deduction, whatever, based on your slab, you will have to pay. Any person less than 7 lakh, do not think go for new tax regime. That's about it. Just one more point which it just reminds me now, in this budget, apart from this old and new, government has done a really good thing for people who are earning a lot, the HNI category. So okay, when you calculate this tax of 10%, 20% and 30%, it's not a flat rate. Government also adds cess and surcharge to it, as you would have heard. This, for simple explanation, I put it as 10, 20, 30. It could be 10 plus 4% surcharge plus cess. So government, in order to give some benefit to the high end individuals, because they are paying a lot of tax, government has reduced this surcharge. It's reduced from I think just 1 second, it's reduced to 25% from earlier. It's reduced from 37% to 25%.
Wow.
Which is huge. So anyone who's earning 2-3 crores, a 3% surcharge reduction means a lot. So this is one thing which I thought I'll highlight, that the very good measure by government for helping the people who are on the higher end, that they've not reduced the tax slabs, but they've reduced the surcharge by a significant amount. Yeah.
Super. Yeah. Thank you so much, Sunita, for making so simple. I've understood once again. My dad taught me, but I've again understood it. Super. So now the fourth question. Did the budget announce anything for women and senior citizens? Anything that you feel that, because our parents, like I'm sure I can guide my dad, and anything that is making sense, any benefits that's being given to women, if there's anything, can you share with us?
Yeah, I'd actually prepared one slide on this as well. Let me share that. So there are a lot of measures which the government is always been, taking for empowerment of women. Last year, they launched about self-help groups for women who are in the agriculture and MSME, which is, medium to small enterprises, women working in the MSME sectors and agriculture. They've done a lot of things. They are still doing a lot of things in order to improve. One point which is relating specifically to this group here is government. They've launched a new scheme for women, which is called which is called Mahila Samman Saving Certificate. Now, this is something apart from all the social causes that they are doing. This is something a product that they have launched, which is called the Mahila Samman Saving Certificate. Few key pointers I have put down for you all. It's like a 2-year tenure investment. It gives you a fixed rate of 7.5% per annum. The maximum deposit that you could do is 2 lakhs rupees, and partial withdrawals are allowed. Yeah. So this is one new scheme which has come up this year, in support of women. Now, if someone asks, is this scheme good? Should you invest? So there are two answers to it. One is, we are at the peak of interest rate cycle, right? We've already, since COVID, from a very low interest rate cycle, currently we've moved to a higher interest rate cycle. Yeah.
Maybe I just like
okay. So I'm sure people who are running their home loans would have seen their EMIs also going up, right? My EMI, my self EMI has gone up significantly since COVID till now. So coming back to our question, we are in economics term, we are in a rising interest rate cycle. The cycle is peaking now because COVID is over, everything is coming into place. Now the interest rates would fall from here. So in an investment scenario like this, the 7.5% looks lucrative for a 2-year investment.
Yeah.
Maximum amount is again 2 lakh. What the budget doesn't mention, and even I was trying to do my research, is the post-tax returns. Like, how would the tax be calculated on this? This is not mentioned anywhere. And hence, as per my view, there's a hold on this, because someone who's earning, is in the 30% tax bracket, investing in this would end up, earning a post-tax return of about 3.5%.
Yeah.
So good for people, good for women who are in the lower end tax bracket. This serves as a wonderful opportunity. People who are in the higher tax bracket will still have to wait for the finance bill to see what sort of taxation they are implementing.
Perfect.
Yeah. And for senior citizens, I think this is a very good move. I think this absolutely benefits without any doubt to senior citizens. All of you all know about the senior citizen savings scheme. Government this year has increased the limit from 15 lakh to 30 lakhs. Which means one could invest in these schemes 30 lakhs investment is increased. For people to understand what is the senior citizen savings scheme, it's like an FD for senior citizens. Tenure is usually 5 years. So one would deposit their entire money in this scheme and would receive pensions, quarterly payouts, and the payouts are taxable. But since you are a senior citizen, the income slab would be lower. This definitely makes sense. The current interest rate on this product, which is a senior citizen, is about 8%. So definitely a thumbs up move by government by increasing the limit. Similarly, for monthly income scheme, they've increased the limit from 4.5 to 9 lakh for single holders and 9 lakh to 15 lakh for joint holders. So I think a great move for senior citizens.
Yeah, absolutely. It's like people should invest, like all the senior citizens should invest. It's a great opportunity for them.
True.
Yeah, absolutely. Good. So this, we already had 5:15, Sunita. So what we'll do is that we'll take the last question, and then after that we will open the question answer if there is any. So see, whenever any budget gets rolled out, we are looking out for certain sectors, saying, is this sector a lucrative sector for this year for investment, from an investment perspective purely? So do you see any sector where you think we should see, whenever it comes to investing, I'm a big preacher of see long term, but it's always good to know which are the sectors that's going to do well in the current year or in the current 3 to 5 years. So can you just throw some light on that, please?
Sure. So basically, Meena, any sector, the outlook for any, it's futuristic, right? Any outlook for any sector is a combination of how much demand is there for that sector, and secondly, how much the government is willing to invest, the capex which we discussed, right?
Yeah.
So how much capex, which is capital expenditure, the government will do on a particular sector. I too spoke about railways and infra, and about what kind of demand it is going to generate. So based on my analysis at work and all, I have created a very simple slide which will just give you a synopsis of the sectors that could do well. I mean, since I told you this is a capex led budget, these are the sectors. BFSI is banking and financial services. It would do really well because government is doing a lot of measures on reducing NPAs. NPAs means non-performing assets, which means the default. The government is trying to have various measures where it will try to reduce the defaults, and it will be beneficial. So all these sectors would do well, and investing in a mutual fund or any route which has investment in these sectors would be great.
Okay.
Why I have put a negative to the insurance sector here is that a government in the recent announcement, they started. So basically, whenever you took an insurance policy, non-ULIP policy, you could use it as an exemption in your tax calculation. Government, what they have done this year is, any insurance policy ex ULIP, any investment above 5 lakhs. So if your premium is more than 5 lakhs, you will be taxed. So, we as individuals would not prefer such policies, right? And that would reduce the income for an insurance company.
Correct.
So that is why it's a negative for insurance company. HDFC Life will be the biggest. I was hearing an interview from Vibha Padilkar. She is the CEO of HDFC. So
Okay.
it will hit their revenues about 10 to 12% this year because of this one challenge.
One rule that's coming. Okay.
Yeah. So
most of the sectors are positive then, what I can see.
So these are, Meena, ancillary sectors. So you take real estate. If you're capturing real estate, you are capturing cement sector, you are capturing other automobile sector. So this is like, a ripple effect. You're covering a lot of sectors if you're covering real estate.
Understood. Perfect. So so that comes to the end of this demystifying, simplifying union budget. I hope this was useful. I hope this really helped. If this was useful and if this was helpful, just put a U. If it was useful, if it really helped you a lot. And although we discussed the question, but if there are any questions, please feel free to share with me. Thank you so much, Vivek, Saundarya, Pratiksha. Thank you so much. It feels nice that, because union budget is something which I have seen clients saying, wo 3 idiots mein hai na machine ka definition. There are 2 definitions. Ek Amir Khan deta hai aur ek wo professor deta hai. So usually union budget ka hamesha presentation is like the professor giving. But saying it in a very simple fashion is what will empower us. So thank you so much, Sunita. And if there are any questions, please feel free. We can just take it now. Before that, let's take a pic now. If you can switch on your video just for a few seconds, whoever it is possible, please do that. Or jiska nahi ho sakta, it's absolutely fine. I'll just take a pic before the question answer starts. Okay. Hadi and Hadi, Vaishali, is it possible? No worries. Okay, fine. Superb. Thank you so much. Yeah. Now open to question answers. Whoever wants to ask anything, please feel free. Or we'll wrap it up. Like, any questions? Thanks, Saundarya. You can just unmute yourself also. It's okay. Whatever you want to express and share, you can just unmute myself. So Sunita, you explained it so nicely. किसी को कोई भी question नहीं है. Superb. So anyone wants to unmute and share, please feel free to do that.
Meena,
हाँ बोलो.
thank you so much, Meena or Sunita. मतलब, I was always running from this, whenever it comes budget or income tax और ये सब terms, तो I switch off the TV और मतलब मैं जाती नहीं थी डिस्कशन में और कभी भी. और मैंने तुमसे भी पर्सनली बात की, तो मतलब ये सब सब्जेक्ट्स मुझे ऐसे लगते थे, oh, it's not my cup of tea, I won't be able to handle. So the way Sunita explained everything in a simplified manner, मतलब now I would like to take interest, मतलब उसके बारे में और जानना है और करना है. So thank you so much.
Thank
That's
you
okay.
so much, Pratiksha. That's so kind of you. Thank you.
Superb. Okay. Anyone wants to share anything?
This is exactly a similar feedback from my end as well. I'm most of the time very confused turning on the TV and watching the budget, but this was so simplified and so beautiful. Thank you so much, both of you.
Thank you.
Thank you so much. Thanks a lot. Okay. Any more last one share before we wrap up for the day?
I would like to share.
Yeah, please.
So this was very interesting, and I knew certain things. Yes, the old regime and the new one, that I was not able to understood. So now I could easily understand that, and thank you so much. So Sunita has explained it so well, and thank you, Meena, for making this happen. Thank you so much.
Lakshmi. Thanks a lot. Thank you so much. Superb. Okay. So, anyone else before we wrap up? Okay, chalo. Superb. Okay.
Hi, Meena.
Thank you.
Want to share something?
Hi. Hi, Vaishali.
Sorry, unable to on the video, but I would
No,
really
no
want
worries.
to share my feelings about this webinar
Okay.
because as everybody share ना कि जब भी budget का topic होता है तो women are like मेरे क्या काम का,
Exactly.
earning को ही करना चाहिए और somewhere I felt
Perfect.
that hierarchy भी ऐसी है कि women को budget समझा देने के लिए बहुत सारी traps available है, right? तो somewhere
Yes.
it is very important to know budget because मुझे ये फील हो रहा है कि जब एक महिला घर को संभाल सकती है तो बजट समझेगी तो कितना अच्छा वो कर पाएगी. So
Correct.
somewhere I'm feeling that awareness need to be. और जैसे हम नोविज है, बिल्कुल बजट का कोई नॉलेज नहीं और जिस हिसाब से सुनीता ने समझाया है आई फेल्ट वाओ. तभी बहुत सारी टर्मिनोलॉजीज नहीं समझी है बट लिटरली वांट टू नो मोर बिकॉज आई थिंक जब एक वुमन अच्छा बजट समझेगी तो वो अपने बच्चों को भी बजट के बारे में बहुत अर्ली समझाएगी. सो कीप डूइंग दिस वर्क. इफ यू नीड एनी काइंड ऑफ डिजिटल हेल्प आई एम देयर. So I'm so appreciating Meena for your initiation and Sunita. Thank you so much. Thank you.
Thank you so much. And our finance minister is also a lady. So yeah.
Yes, yes.
Yeah, that is well
Thank you.
said, well said. Actually, when we can handle a home, I always tell women, we can handle everything. But the sad part now, the outside world uses so much of jargon, like that Three Idiot ka professor, that we feel it's too much overwhelming. Yeah, so that's the reason why we have always been shy of it. Yeah, that's beautifully said, Vaishali. Beautifully
I'd
said.
like to add one point. If anyone who really wants to know more about budget, you could just type in budget, union budget. There's a government website. They published almost every report that I spoke about. One could just go browse, read. If Meena's always there, I'm always there, and happy to help if anyone wants to know more. Yeah.
Super. We'll call you more, Sunita. We'll not
I'm more than happy, Meena.
like that. Okay, superb. Thank you so much. Wish you all a fantastic Sunday evening. Again, thank you, thank you, thank you. You just chose to spend this time with us. It shows that you truly believe in being empowered when it comes to your money management. It's a sign that you truly believe in being empowered about it. Thank you so much. Thanks a lot.
Thank you.
Okay, chalo, bye.
Bye bye.